Welcome to the Popish Plot. I'm Nate.
I'm Jessica.
And I'm Mike.
Today is Monday, and we're still working on our reports for our book club. We are once again reading Trent Horn's Why We're Catholic.
We love Catholic Book Club.
We do. This week, we were reading Section 4, Saints and Sinners.
I love that album.
Matt Maher is the best.
I don't recall there being any discussion of either Matt Maher or his album Saints and Sinners.
Are you sure? Because it's the name of his album.
I know that's the name of his album, and that is the name of this section, but I think those two things are coincidental, not correlated.
That would explain the lack of song lyrics in this entire section.
I think I was just listening to it as I read.
Yeah, I got it currently going in my car, so that could be it.
It's a really good album.
Yeah.
Anyways, for those of you who've been following along, we've been working our way through this book. Now,
down below in the comment area, we will have a link to the playlist of everyone else who's reading this book.
Yep, so you make sure after you watch through this video to go check out a few others, get a well-rounded view of what's going on in this section.
So, what most stuck out to me about Part 4 was belief in spite of scandal.
Ah, yes.
Now, as many Catholic YouTubers and other Catholic media folk have responded to, including us in our mandatory scandal response video, we all know about what's currently going on in the Church. The very painful, purgative process necessary to root out long-standing sin and corruption.
Yes.
But it's important to have a sense of proportion and history. To know that this is not a uniquely Catholic problem, as horrific as it is. And to know that things have been, hard to believe, but even worse in the past.
Yes.
One incident that Trent doesn't talk about, but which we find very vivifying
which we will
here,
talk about whenever possible,
is the Cadaver Synod.
The Cadaver Synod!
In the late 800s, when one pope put another pope's dead body on trial.
Now, you may be thinking, well, that's really unfair, but no. They did this well and proper. So, the cadaver had both someone to speak for them and an attorney to defend them.
Pope Formosus, dead by this point, was exhumed by his successor, Pope Stephen VI, sometimes listed as Stephen VII. Either case, not a saint.
Nope.
Who had been his political rival in life and put Pope Formosus's corpse, decaying, rotting corpse, in papal robes and then put it on trial.
I'd hate to have to be the guy who had to make voices by standing up behind his chair and talking for him.
How do you plead? Not guilty! So, if we can believe...
I also want to think that we can Bernie to it and
So, we can believe in spite of these shenanigans. We can believe in spite of the personal failings of ourselves as Christians and even many of our priests. Because we're all sinners in need of salvation, which is what caught Nate's eye.
Yes, the chapter that struck me the most was the chapter that immediately followed the chapter on scandal, which was, we believe faith works through love.
Almost as if that's in the Bible.
Yes. See, I, coming from a Protestant background, I for a very long time believed that all I needed was faith. All I had to do was pray for Jesus to save me from my sin, and I was good. I'm in. Safe!
But I mean that's a necessary part of the process.
It is. It is a necessary part of the process, and one of the things that I love about the Catholic Church is that they teach that it is, in fact, the process. Perhaps some other time we'll talk about my experience dealing with faith alone, but for now, one of the things that really caught my eye in this chapter is the analogy of the sinking ship. It is essentially a thought experiment wherein you are on a sinking ship, you radio for help, you put on your life jacket, you get into the water, and a few days later, help arrives. Now, at what point in time were you actually saved? Was it when you made the call on the radio? Was it when the boat arrived? Or was it when you actually got on the boat and were delivered safely to shore? Now, to put it in perspective, many of our Protestant brothers and sisters would suggest that the moment that you have made the call on the radio saying that you are in distress, you need to be rescued, here's where you're at, you're good. Jesus is coming. He's going to rescue you.
But let's say that you get impatient, and instead of waiting for the rescue boat to arrive, you instead decide to swim off yourself.
That's an excellent question. In fact, many people would argue that that is in fact what the Catholic Church teaches.
Which it doesn't.
Which it doesn't. But
I don't remember anything about swimming.
No, it's the works alone premise. In that, yes, you asked to be saved, but rather than waiting for God to come and save you, you then went and did something to try and save yourself.
That's a horrible idea. I'm not that good of a swimmer.
It's a horrible idea. In all likelihood, if you are miles out at sea, that is how you die.
Doesn't matter how good a swimmer you are when you're in the middle of the ocean.
Exactly. The Catholic Church, on the other hand, teaches that salvation is a process. And while faith is an absolutely necessary part of that process, and is, as a general rule, the official starting spot for that process, that there is more to it. You have to put on your life jacket. You have to wait patiently for the ship to arrive.
You have to help other people put on their life jackets.
Exactly.
After you put on your own, like, airplane and the air thing.
Yep, absolutely. You put on your life jacket before you put on anybody else's.
You can't give what you don't have.
As I've heard it said, you cannot pour from an empty cup. But I really like putting it into this perspective, because by doing so, it really kind of paints the picture in a more complete fashion. So, yes, this is part of your salvation, but you still have to get on the boat. I mean, for all you know, the sharks, you're going to try swimming or something. Shark's going to get you. Wow.
So, salvation is a multi-step process. It's not something that happens just one moment when you respond to an altar call and that's when you get saved.
Exactly. And it is something that you could, through your actions, revoke.
And it's so long a process that it even continues, in a way, after death.
Yes, yeah. Which gets to the third chapter in this section, which is on Purgatory, which is then followed on the saints, and especially on Mary in the last section. The last two sections we've actually talked quite a bit about.
Many times.
Many times. If you watch our show on Monday, if we're not making something, or talking about how we're not making anything because we're talking about the Sabbath rest.
We actually have a whole playlist of episodes that would fit to the criteria that she's looking for. Our Marian Mondays. We also have some Saintly Saturdays or Sundays.
We talk about saints all over the
all over the calendar.
All over
we
the
talk
calendar.
about the saints a lot.
But Purgatory.
Yes. He gets into how Purgatory is not, as some people say, making the cross not important or taking away from the power of Christ and forgiveness. And he also talks about, different theories on Purgatory and why it actually is showing the power of Christ.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think in this, or maybe in one of his talks, because I listen to him on YouTube and stuff too.
It all gets a little conflated.
Yeah.
Did he say this here, or did he say this over here?
He points out the fact that to say that Purgatory negates Jesus' power on the cross is to say that saying the sinner's prayer negates Jesus' power on the cross.
Yeah. I mean, God does say that if
logically, according to the fact that nothing needs to be done, he could have just, boom, everyone's saved.
The scripture does say that if and when we get to heaven, we will be made perfect. It really doesn't say anything about the process by which that happens.
Well, St. Paul did say some stuff about refiner's fire, and there's some Old Testament things that allude to it. But reading this, I kind of enjoyed thinking of the contrast between Purgatory and the saints in heaven. Because he makes a point of the fact that St. Paul also likes sports a lot.
Sports!
He's got all sorts of sports analogies in the Bible.
Running a race.
Especially running the race.
Competing well.
Yes. And about how...
Not shadowboxing.
No.
Well, we're just going with the racing because you don't need to race. It's not a physical race.
I'm exhausted already.
But about the metaphor of running a marathon, because as we discussed in the boat analogy, you can't just call for help and you're done. It's a process.
It's not enough to just start running a marathon. You've got to finish it.
Yes. And about how the saints in heaven, much like if you were running a marathon or an Ironman or one of those other competitions that are really long and it takes a lot of work, when you get done running, you then turn around in the finish line area and you cheer on everyone else who's running after you. Which made me think that you guys always joke about how you two and Deacon Ken are going to be the last three in purgatory when, the
Closing time.
Yes, Angel Michael goes and shuts the lights on and off and says, "Come on, guys, it's time to leave."
We know ourselves. We think that's just likely.
Yeah.
And how, if you're aiming low for purgatory, you'd want to die at the end of time, because once time ends, purgatory gets finished. Whatever the process is, in the lack of time that you're kind of already in, it gets accelerated to instantaneously. However, if you were going to end up being a saint in heaven and, aim for what you're supposed to be aiming for...
You could loophole the whole purgation process altogether.
I was going to say... I wasn't trying to get loopholes. I was saying...
No.
I was going to point out how it would be kind of, sad to be these saints at the end of time. Because then when you turn around, there's no one else to cheer on.
Except, I think at that point... all will be revealed.
Yes, and then you would instantly be happy. You wouldn't actually be sad, but
You're the last one across. Everybody's giving you high fives.
Well, we do think about the little flower who prayed that she would spend her eternity doing good on earth. So if you're a saint at the end of time, you don't get to do that.
Yeah.
Chip.
You'll never be the patron saint of something weird based on what your name rhymes with.
or the bizarre manner in which they put you to death.
Yes.
Check out all the other participants in this YouTube collaboration and their perhaps slightly more focused videos.
Go down below to find links for the rest of the playlist. Also, while you're down there, comment on what you got out of this section of the book, either if you're reading it or just from watching our episodes.
They got nothing. We talked about corpses and running races.
And a sinking ship. Come on.
Why you should or should not put corpses on trial. This is information people need to know. So like this episode, subscribe to our channel, ring that church bell to be notified when the next plot is uploaded.
And until...
We'll be back next Monday with the final part of this Catholic Book Club collaboration.
Time went by so fast. I believe the final section is entitled Morality and Destiny.
Very appropriate, since it'll be the end of the liturgical year.
Yes.
A good time to think about our ultimate destiny.
That's right.
And until next time,
live your faith.
Love your faith.
Share that love.